Today's tutor is Portrait Artist of the Year winner Gareth Reid, who caught the attention of us judges with charcoal drawings of broadcaster Adrian Chiles and actress Imelda Staunton. He further impressed with portraits of actor Tom Courtenay and High Court Judge Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb.
It's just fantastic.
This is an absolutely exquisite finished piece of art.
Winning him a commission to paint broadcaster and comedian Graham Norton for the National Gallery of Ireland. In 2023, he created a tender and serene portrait of actor Dame Judi Dench, which secured him the title Portrait Artist of the Decade.
Gareth Reid.
Gareth's drawings feel almost carved.
It's sort of sculpted, isn't it? I think he really elevates the humble pencil.
Which is why he is leading today's masterclass, observing facial features using abstract shapes.
Today I'm going to help you achieve a likeness in your portraits by breaking down facial features into abstract shapes. I kind of tend to think of the whole face as being an interlocking series of shapes in a kind of a jigsaw, so hopefully today we'll help you solve that puzzle. I'm working at the easel, which is the way I tend to work because I feel like you can just get back from your work a lot. And it also makes it very easy for you to compare this to this. The easel is a little bit low, so I'm going to raise it up a little bit. So that feels comfortable. It's in my kind of eye line and shoulder height. It's a comfortable way to draw. So I've chosen this photo of my daughter. I think it's appropriate for today's lesson because her features are quite clear, so it's easy to focus on them. I've made it black and white, so it's easy to convert into a black and white drawing. That part of it's done. A lot of this is making it as easy as possible with your reference. And yeah, I think she's just got a lovely look. She's my daughter, obviously, so I'm biased, but yeah, I think it'll make a nice portrait. So I'm going to make a start. I usually look for a kind of strong line, which is, I kind of think of as an anchor point. So that could be the hair. It's a very bold line, so I would kind of start with that. And then go from there. I'm going top of the head, quite loose. And down the side of the jaw. Now, the way I draw is I try and think objectively or look at the shapes objectively, not think about what they are, but just how they look. So the whole shape of the face, that's one big shape, and then there are smaller shapes within that. If you get the bigger shapes right first in a really simple way, then it's easier to get those small shapes within correct as well. So the issue with drawing features is that they're sensory parts of our body. We look into each other's eyes when we talk with our mouths. So these are all very, very important parts of the face to us. But they're not more important than, say, the cheek, forehead, the chin, the lip. They've got psychological importance. So sometimes we give them too much importance. We focus on them and they end up floating on their own without being connected up by all these parts here. So to avoid having the features just floating as islands within a kind of blank face, not connected up, we would start to think of them as shapes that are all interconnected with the cheek, the forehead, the chin. So then they become a believable head with parts that are joined up and anatomically correct. So when we think of the eye, it's not just the eye, it's that whole eye socket. So the eye socket relates to the corner of this part of the hair. It comes down like this. It's easy to draw or measure little jumps instead of a jump from here to here, say. It's easy to measure this from here to here. So already, just by putting in the hairline, we kind of know where the eye socket starts, which is right here. I'm just kind of feeling my way around at the minute. These lines are so light that they might end up moving eventually, but I think that the eyelid is roughly here. One important thing is always checking proportions sideways to height. So at the minute, so using a long implement can be anything. I'm looking at from the side of the ear to the furthermost point on the right-hand side of the face. Then I'm comparing that to the height. So I'm going right down to the chin, and that equals, this width equals just slightly above the eyebrow. So if I look at my drawing, I do the same. So that measurement seems correct. And then if I go down to the chin, it should end up slightly above the eyebrow, which checks out. So I'm kind of happy with that proportion, that big proportion. So that's big shapes, trying to get those big shapes right first, and then we go into the smaller shapes. So if I know that the proportion from here to here works out from here to here, then I'm quite happy. Okay, at this point, things are generally in the right place, but there's something wrong, and I can't really tell what it is. In my studio, I do this all the time. I look in the mirror, I flip the canvases or the drawings upside down all the time as a tool to help me find out what's wrong if I can't really see what it is. So we're at that point right now. There's something to do with the shapes around here. When I turn it upside down, I can see them afresh. So I should be able to see these as kind of abstract shapes as opposed to my brain taking over and seeing a mouth, a nose, a cheek. So hopefully this will help. It usually does. Okay. I'm just looking at these over this side of the face here, these shapes. Suddenly they become, because it's turned upside down, it's removed us from the knowledge of what features they are there. So I can see this shape here more clearly. And if I compare it to my own, so I'm going to need to take away this, make this line a bit thinner, take away the outside edge of it. Also, the chin isn't quite right, so I'm going to look at that as well. So I've attended to the bits that I thought were a bit dodgy. I'm going to flip it again to see whether they've worked out or they need some more attention. But yeah, let's flip it back the way. Okay, standing back. Yeah, I think that's it's a bit better. The mouth here needs some attention, but this whole area, I'm much happier with this. I feel like it's a bit more accurate. So this reference here is very zoomed in. It doesn't quite have the rest of the hair. So I've got another photograph here which includes the hair and the shoulders. So I'm just going to use it to give my drawing a bit more context, because otherwise it's just focused on this. We don't want that. We need hair and shoulders. So I'm just using it briefly just to mark where the shoulders are. At the moment, I've got the nose blocked in, but it's not that accurate at the minute. So now is the really time to really, really look at it in depth. So instead of thinking about what a nose is with nostrils and that kind of thing, I'm just going to look at how the lines come down and think of them again in abstract shapes. Yeah, it's like a little curved, little grey shape here. Then it comes round, curves over the nostril here. Then there's another line, another little shape that comes up like this, which forms the kind of bulb at the end of the nose. This line curves underneath here and up. There's a little dip just here in the nose, here, which is important. Another very, very subtle shape here. And the thing is, if you trust all of these shapes and you draw them accurately, they end up making a nose or making an eye or making a mouth without you even thinking what that thing is that you're drawing. And you're starting to get a kind of 3D effect. It's still at a subtle stage, but you're starting to get a feeling of this nose having form and it kind of being believable, which is what we want. And then just looking over at this on the right-hand side into this cheek shape, I'm really not thinking about that as being a nose. I'm not thinking about this being an eye. I'm not thinking about this being a cheek. I'm just purely looking at this weird shape here. So I regard that as the big shape in this as we're drawing. And then within it, we've got smaller shapes like the shadow shape. If I'm quite confident, and I'm 90% that this is okay, this shape, I can then look within it and start drawing the other smaller shapes within it. But it goes big shapes to small shapes. Got to make sure the big ones are right before you go on to the smaller ones. A way of getting a likeness is this way of using abstract shapes to observe things coolly, in a kind of way that, especially if you know the person, like my reference here is of my daughter, but honestly, I've seen this wee face like 1,000 times. I know it very well, but I'm never once thinking of her as like a look that I've seen, or that's my daughter. I'm thinking completely, utterly clinically about the shapes. All of this helps in seeing somebody in an accurate way. I think when a portrait has been commissioned, then the necessity for likeness is much higher. Whereas when it's your own work, it doesn't matter so much. And also likeness takes different shapes and forms. And it doesn't need to be a photographic likeness. It can be like the person, but not necessarily look really, really specifically like them visually. Could be the way they sit. Mostly in commissions, you need to get it like the person. So that's where the challenge lies. Negative shapes, again, is a very, very important tool to use when you're trying to draw a thing that you're very, very familiar with or you find difficult. The negative shape is the stuff that's around the thing that you're drawing. It's the space that's around it. So you're drawing the stuff that isn't the thing that you're drawing. In this case, it's the black shape of the hair. And by doing that, you kind of accidentally draw the ear. In this case, we've done it here. So we just follow this line round that was this shape here. We're not thinking of the inside, we're thinking of the outside. And we end up with an ear. Okay, this is the stage where we start to really try and make the head convincing, and that means working with the forms using shadows, and that means shadow shapes. So we are looking Specifically, I've left this bit, which is around the chin, so we can see, if you look at the reference photograph, you can see this curved shape here. Okay, so I want to try and replicate that in my drawing. There's another more subtle one. So this is the main shadow shape. We see it come around like this. It comes up here as well, but I've already done that here. But there's another more subtle one, which goes like this here. We've got a light part here and a light part here. All of the rest of that is going to be shaded. I'm going to, first of all, tackle the darker shadow shape. Also, the way I shade a lot of the time is in a kind of a directional way. So it kind of gives a sense of the real sculptural quality of the head. So I'm kind of drawing, the lines are all kind of follow the chin around. So at this point, they go diagonally. At this point, they come this way. So you're kind of feeling around the shape of the chin. Okay, stand back a bit. Okay, it needs to go much darker. We've got a little bit of light in here that we want to, it's not light, it's just a lighter part. So the lip, looking at this shape here, the upper lip comes down. This is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of shapes. This is really, really critical, but it doesn't look like a mouth at all. I'm not thinking of that as a mouth. I'm thinking of it as a little kind of right angle shape there, okay? And if you draw that accurately, it looks like a mouth at that angle. So it comes across, and then there's quite a strong line going vertically there. Completely abstract. Not thinking about it as a lip at all. The darker part of that shadow. Then all the rest of it just gets filled in. Now the kind of secondary bit of shading, which is of this bit, leaving us the two light bits here and here. I need to take out a little bit here, just to make that light a bit clearer. So again, in that kind of directional way of shading. You can hardly see the difference between this and this. So it's the same on your drawing. So a lot of the time you feel like you're drawing and there's nothing like showing up on your page, but it appears eventually. Very, very light, holding the charcoal very, very lightly. And we're getting there. It's starting to have some kind of form. Okay, so we've got to a point where I've blocked in the hair a little bit, but I haven't really done very much with it. I found in the past, when I was teaching portraiture, I found that my students focused on hairs, not hair. So that was what I used to always say is hair, not hairs. So it's mass instead of individual hairs that are drawn. So it's got a top, a side, it's got light reflecting on it, just like the rest of the face. So it's got form. Just like the chin that we described, there's a shadow shape. And the shadow shape kind of goes something like this, just in a very simple way. Because we're not going to be too precise about it for this drawing. We're going to give an indication of what's going on with the light on the hair. So that's where the shadow stops and the hair comes down like that. The light is hitting here, and then it goes dark again, kind of up here. and then there's a bit of light here, and then dark everywhere else. If we show that in a really simple, indicative way, you just get a sense of it being a solid mass that's kind of on top of the head, as opposed to something you haven't really given much thought to. I don't really know the anatomy of the ear, but all I do is draw these shadow shapes inside it, like that, as accurately as I can. And hopefully, because I've done the outside of the ear fairly faithfully, this will be fairly straightforward. It's really no more than a kind of indication of what's there. Just for a drawing like this, it's pretty sketchy. I'm just kind of giving an indication of what the interior of the ear is like. So a couple of these shadow shapes is fine for my purposes. Okay, so I think that's it finished now. I'm quite happy with the likeness. The features I feel are accurate. And also one of the important things that I was talking about was that they join up. They make something coherent. They're not just floating by themselves. They're joined by an eye socket, cheek, cheekbone, upper lip, chin, forehead, whatever. Hopefully you found it helpful to see facial features as abstract shapes, and that ensures you get a likeness more easily. Try that at home, and good luck.
If you'd like to find out more about these masterclasses, go onto our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv.